Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson Kyle. And I'm joined here, as always, by a man who, since he was staring at me a little bit, is now been flagged for a taunting penalty. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing good. Yeah. I mean, I'm just, in your head right now mentally because of all this staring.
Yeah, always in my head mentally, Kyle.
I knew it. It's what I do.
Yeah, so we were talking about this a little bit pre-show. There was an incredible taunting penalty. I've been right on this saga. I immediately, once I saw that the NFL was getting into this, instantly not a fan. And this is a great example. So I'm going to play the clip. We're going to talk about this for a minute, and then we'll get into the meat of the show because I want to talk about this. I'll play the clip for the audio only. I'll describe it after. There's going to be the audio of the broadcast. I forgot to exit that out, so it's just 3 seconds. So here it is. That's a little out of the county tractor pull right there. Yeah, so that's all it was. It was just a couple of words. We don't know what was said. He leans in, says something, and then backs away. Thank God we're getting this tomfoolery out of the game, Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. Don't need that in football, that's for sure. It's just, I don't know. It's a little crazy. I think I tweeted about this. It's like, of the things to fix in the NFL, this was what people were complaining about. This is what you want out of the game. Right. Like, how does this change I don't know. How would you change anything with this? I just don't get it.
I just hate it. And I want to talk about it because I just think it's such a dumb decision. Right when this happened, and some people are saying, well, I don't hate him getting rid of taunting. I just don't like, I think they're going too far with this one. But my thing is, I've never seen a rule like this be implemented fairly. Like, look at the technical foul rule in basketball. Like, there's no such thing as a consistent taunting rule.
I mean, it isn't because it's all objective of what the referee thinks he hears or what he's seeing. The referee there might not have even seen anything. He just saw him flexing his arms, I guess, and could have thrown the flag. I mean, it really kind of depends on what's happening on the court. And I just think that unless it's on the verge of like a game getting violent between plays, there's just no reason to try and call penalties on this stuff.
Yeah, what if a player is shouting out for the Rockies mascot and then all of a sudden the flag goes? So much could happen.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, overall, I just think it's a terrible rule. I would have rather them fix overtime rather than doing this.
Yeah, I see. Thomas is convinced now that it could be a thing for restricting games. I don't know if it's that, but I just don't like the move. All right, so yeah. Anyways, wanted to talk about that because just saw that before the podcast. We'll get into the meat of the episode. Kyle, this is the series finale here.
Yeah, final division preview. It's coming to an end. That just means we're that close to football season. I think we're 2 weeks away from week 0 of college football season, and then I think it's 3 weeks from there to NFL season.
Yeah, it's exciting times here, and we are what we did last year, same this year. Ending up, saving the best for last with the NFC South. Obviously, I'm wearing my Tampa Bay t-shirt right now. This is a weird time. I got to say, as a Buccaneers fan, watching Kyle Trask play a preseason game, it was so stress-free. I've never had every time we draft a quarterback, it's like, okay, this is either going to be, there's so much pressure involved. Now I'm like, what if he sucks? Who cares?
Yeah, you've got a pretty good one there starting, so I think you're going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so do you want to just get into it?
Yeah, we can get into it once again. I'll do the little intro here once again for the division previews. If you haven't listened to any other ones, there's 7 more before this one. Make sure to go back and listen to those. They're all good stuff. I'm going to rank all these divisions in order. I'll go through the entire list here because this is our last division. And then from there, I'm going to rank the NFC South from number 4 through number 1. And then we're going to match it up with Jackson's algorithm for breaking down wins added per position group. We're going to break down each of the position groups for all 4 teams, and we're going to see how my rankings compute with his statistics, and then we're going to put that together for our rankings for the season.
Yeah, at the end, we'll do our final predictions for everything as well, including, who we think will win the Super Bowl, who will win each playoff game, along with all of the major awards. So, jam-packed show here. Kyle, you wanted to go ahead start us off with number 4?
Yeah, number 4. So we're on the NFC South here. I have this as the 4th best division in football. I think it slipped a little bit this offseason, but I still think it's in the top half of the league. So just to recap, for anybody who hasn't listened to the past ones, I have the AFC North as the number 1 division, the NFC West as the number 2. Why did my camera turn off?
I don't know. We have audio only for Kyle right now. We can hear you fine. Okay,
and I'm back. Okay,
all right.
Sorry about that. All right, preseason for all of us, right?
That's preseason for the internet as well.
Yes. So NFC West is the 2nd best division. AFC West is the 3rd best division. NFC South is 4th. AFC East is 5. NFC North is 6. AFC South is 7. And everyone's favorite division, the NFC East, is last. So going into this division now, I still got Carolina at number 4. I think this is still appropriate. I think that this team had some interesting moments last season. I think that I like Matt Rule as a coach. I just don't think, I still don't think they're in a position to make the playoffs. So they're still just not the talent on the roster. It's developing. It's going to take a couple of years to get better. I think it's going to take another year that I still think this roster is one of the bottom in the league. And neither one of us are Sam Darnold guys. So we're going to get into that too. I had Carolina here at 4.
Yeah, I think this is fair. It's tough. I mean, Matt Rule, I thought was solid as a first-year head coach. He didn't blow me away. He ended up in 19th in the rankings. And just to be clear, he was I think 1 spot behind Vrabel. So he's established. I think Zimmer was also right there. So it's tough. He's not a bad coach, but he is kind of in that line of I would like to see more out of him. I guess the real concern with the Panthers is this. They're really just going all in on Sam Darnold. I mean, they didn't even have him play in the preseason game today. They're find someone who will accept all of your faults the way the Panthers will accept all of Darnold's, because they're confident this is going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we continue to say this. Everything that I'm willing to be proven wrong on this. I'll continue to say that. If Sam Darnold, I'll be the first one to admit I was wrong on it if he turns it around. But I mean, you could blame Adam Gase all you want, but it doesn't change the fact that Joe Flacco looked better last season. The offense looked better when Joe Flacco was on the field. Sam Darnold had 6.3 yards per attempt from a clean pocket during his time with the Jets. That's the number I saw. That's amazingly bad. I don't know. I don't see it. He throws interceptions. He makes bad decisions. He forces some throws, and I just don't think he's a very good quarterback. I mean, we're willing to be proven wrong, but we've yet to see any semblance of life from Darnold.
Yeah, and again, there's also, I don't know, PJ Walker's in there. Maybe you think that, I kind of have said this entire time, I don't hate the idea of getting Darnold. I just think there should have been a backup plan. I do have him as the worst starting quarterback in the league right now. So that's obviously tier 5. And it's tough to win many games with a tier 5 quarterback. It's possible, but it's really tough to be a playoff team with a tier 5 quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's a bad group overall. And yeah, I mean, this is not the division to have a bad quarterback in either, especially with some of the defenses like New Orleans and Tampa Bay as well.
Yeah, there's also Atlanta, but we'll get to that in a second. Running back, this is the team basically. It's Christian McCaffrey. He was incredible 2 years ago. He's been incredible when he's been healthy. Missed last season with an injury. They also have is it Chuba or Chuba Hubbard? You're the college guy.
I've always gone under Chuba Hubbard. So
Chuba Hubbard. Okay, so you got Chuba Hubbard there, but really it's Christian McCaffrey as the tier 1 running back. He is someone that you have to completely adjust how you play against, and that's my line of the true elite running backs are the ones that you don't play man coverage against because you want to make sure that you can stop him. So he's tier 1 for me. Yeah.
I mean, he's a fantastic player, and I think Chuba's a nice option for health reasons. We saw it last year. Mike Davis, I thought, did a solid job. Obviously wasn't as good as Christian McCaffrey, but he did a solid job as replacing him when he was hurt. I think Chuba could be something like that too. And yeah, I mean, I think McCaffrey's the difference maker of this team. Everything about him. He can run inside, outside. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He might be the best receiving back in the league. So there's everything that's fantastic about him. And he, the rest of the offense, I mean, the skill position, I don't really have a problem with Carolina. It's just everything they have around it.
Yeah, to transition there off of what you said, the wide receiver / tight end group, you have Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, who, Robbie Anderson actually got targeted more than DJ Moore did last year. You have David Moore as well from Seattle, who I thought showed flashes with Seattle. They obviously drafted Terrence Marshall and Shea Smith as well. Marshall, kind of the bigger name guy there, could at least be a good number 3 option. I think he could be better than that, to be honest. So tight ends, Dan Arnold and Ian Thomas. Ian Thomas kind of replacement level. Dan Arnold's solid though. It's a tier 3 wide receiver room for me. Again, it's a loaded wide receiver league basically. So you have to do a lot to get in that tier 2 or tier 1. But with guys like Moore, Anderson, and Marshall, I think they have 3 solid options and can run this offense well.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely another strength of the group, like you said. I'm excited to see Terrace Marshall. He was a guy I was really high on before the draft. I'm excited for DJ Moore again. I think he's going to see less. He got a ton of attention last year, and I think he's going to see a little bit less this season now that Anderson had a pretty good year and Marshall's in the building as well, and McCaffrey's going to be healthy. So I think he'll see a little less attention this season, and I think he'll have a big year as well. So I just think this is a really strong receiving group.
Yeah, it's certainly a huge upgrade from what Darnold was dealing with last year in New York.
Yeah, I mean, not much is obvious. I mean, that part is definitely going to help him, but transitioning to the next one, I'm sure you're going to talk about this. The boys up front aren't going to help.
Right. Yeah, it's a tier 5 offensive line. You got Taylor Motton. He's the star. He is the guy who is in the group project doing all the work. He's very good. But you have, Cam Irving, who I have in my notes as replacement level. They also drafted Brady Christensen in the 3rd round for their inside guys. For guards, Pat Eflin, Dennis Daly, and John Miller. I don't think any of those guys are moving the needle for me. Not any of them I really want to be starting, quite frankly. Matt Paradis, who has had solid years at center. He's not a horrible option, but as a whole, this is not a good offensive line when you have your second best player is solid and your third best player is borderline replacement level.
Yeah. I don't know. I paid a lot of attention to Cam Irving just because I know him from high school and all that kind of stuff. Or I knew I covered his high school in Georgia, basically.
Okay. I was going to say, oh, wow.
I didn't personally know him. No.
Gotcha.
I covered his high school in Georgia and all that kind of stuff. So I paid attention, and I mean, I like him as a 6th or 7th offensive lineman, not my starting left tackle.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's going to be an issue. So yeah, I mean, this was another stat I saw with the Panthers, along with Sam Darnold. They've had 10 left tackles since 2013.
That's crazy.
That's unreal. 10 offensive tackles play that position. It's just insane how they've had to cycle through these guys. And it's another new one this year.
Yeah, it's something. So offense, not great, even with a tier 1 running back, which I put a lot of value on. The analytics say getting that top 5 running back helps you a lot. Even with that, they're only the 25th best offense in the league, even with a tier 3 receiving core due to the quarterback and offensive line positions not great.
Yeah. I mean, they've got to get something out of Darnold. If Darnold can even vault himself into a tier 3 quarterback, maybe show a little bit of promise, then maybe this offense can develop a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be tough sledding for this group overall.
Yeah, I don't even know if that would be enough to make them a playoff team. I don't think it would, to be honest. And we can get into that with their defense. So their coverage, they drafted J.C. Horn, which we can talk about him for a second because, when Justin Fields had a great day, which I'll put great in quotes. I mean, he showed some flashes, made some highlight reel level plays. Everyone was talking about the Broncos, but I mean, the Panthers did the exact same thing where they went out and they drafted a corner, J.C. Horn, just one spot earlier. So they could have had Fields or Jones as well. They also have Dante Jackson, who, it's fine. And AJ Boye, who at this point in his career, I'm not sure if I want starting. So the corners they basically need J.C. Horn to come in and be like a great rookie, which just doesn't happen that often. I like Jeremy Chin a lot. Justin Burris is okay. And then you have Shaq Thompson and Denzel Perryman as the linebackers. It's a tier 4 coverage unit for me. They have enough guys that I don't think they'll have guys getting burned consistently, and I do care about that in the secondary. But it's tier 4, and it was 27th, so one spot lower, it would have been tier 5.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this 1,000 times on this podcast, and we'll probably say it 1,000 times more. young cornerbacks take a while to get, developed. And you're playing two young quarterbacks or a basically washed cornerback who's suspended right now, I believe. So I think Jackson and Horn can be good corners. I think it's going to take a little bit because it takes everybody a little bit. I'm just not banking on young cornerbacks and a young secondary being productive. I like Thompson. I like Reddick in the linebacker spot, but there's only so much they're going to be able to do to boost this coverage group.
Yeah, and then for the front seven to round out the defense, inside you got Derek Brown. I could see Brown having that defensive tackle second year jump, and he showed flashes last year. Braven Roy next to him, nothing spectacular there. So they could use maybe some depth on the inside. Their edge guys though, you have Brian Burns, you have Yetur Gross-Matos, and you also Hassan Reddick will both play off-ball linebacker and edge, so it's kind of a unique skill set there. So as a whole, the run defense I have as tier 4, pass rush tier 3. Brian Burns is great. Gross-Matos, maybe we'll see him have a jump as well. So the defense as a whole, though, I'm not too high on. I have it as the 28th best defense in football, so I'm very low on, in fact.
Yeah, this is, I think that's fair. This is a bad group. Now, you could say, hey, Derek Brown gets better, then all of a sudden him, Denzel Perryman, that's a pretty nice run up the middle run duo that can make some plays. Brian Burns can obviously make some plays. Maybe Gross-Matos helps him out, like you said. But yeah, overall, it's kind of like, well, maybe this could happen. Maybe this could happen. It's kind of like, we're hoping for all this to happen. And that's the thing I've been saying about Carolina. This is just going to take a lot of time. I think I said before last season, and they surprised us a little bit. I said this was the worst roster in the league last year. And I still don't think it's a very good roster. I still think it's a really developing roster. There's just so many young guns on this team. I can't imagine this team being competitive this year, maybe next year. I think that they're building something, but it's just going to take too long.
Yeah. So here's Jake Thornton says, oops, wrong. The thing upload. Let's see. I think Carolina is going to be drafting Spencer Rattler, which, again, take out of account which quarterback they could get. Is this let's try to let our young guys grow. Let's sort of punt on the quarterback position, take a flyer on Darnold. He'll either be great or he'll suck. And if he sucks, we can get a quarterback in the draft because we'll have like a top 10 pick.
Yeah. I think that's possible. I think that probably likely is the option, although, this is very early scouting, but I'm probably looking at Malik Willis first, but that's okay.
Right.
Yeah. So I think,
yeah,
exactly. So, I think this is a situation where they're probably looking at a quarterback next year, unless we see something from Darnold. If Darnold looks a lot better, then obviously that's something. But at the same time, if Darnold looks pretty good this next season, which, like I said, I'm not betting on, there's still the conversation of, do you want to pay Darnold or do you want to reset your pay scale and get the rookie quarterback? There's a whole lot of variables to that situation.
Yeah. Kicker, Joey Sly. Big leg, fine, tier 3. This puts their total at 5.79 wins, 26th best team in football. To me, I think this is a rebuilding year for Carolina. I think there's some excitement with the Panthers because of all the close losses that they had last year, but I don't know. This is not a team that I'm excited about next season, but I do think that there's I'm interested in what's going to happen, and I like stuff about them. I just think this is a team that really, I think if they get like a great quarterback, it turns this team around a little bit and just another year of experience. So this might be a year away type team, maybe even an Aaron Rodgers team next year, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think they'll be in conversations, and I know the owner wants to spend money, so he's going to be willing to do it. If I said that in no particular order, Detroit, Carolina, Philly are the bottom 3 teams in the NFC. Is that correct? You think?
In the NFC, Detroit, Carolina, Philly. Well, let me just pull up my chart real quick. I know this is not great podcasting, but Detroit, Carolina, Philly. So I have for the NFC, I actually have one team lower than them, which we have not talked about. So maybe this is a good transition. Do you want to talk about your number 3 team now?
Yeah, we can move on to number 3. A little surprising to hear that. So we'll get into this one. I have the Falcons at 3. I actually had it pretty narrowly close. I did a playoff predictors a couple days ago when I was going through. I basically did the whole season, and that's how I did my end of year rankings that we're going to do at the end of this show. And I had them in the number 2 team separated by a game, actually. I think the Falcons did some nice things this offseason. I think that they're going to get better because Dan Quinn's not there. There are still some holes in this roster that make it a problem because this is one of those teams kind of like New Orleans that was in a bit of a cap hell, and that's why they had to trade Julio Jones. So they had to shed some stuff too. I still think that they can be competitive because I think that offense is going to be awesome. So I have Atlanta at number 3.
Interesting. So, yeah, to be clear, I have this team close to the Panthers, but I do have them a little bit lower, actually. Part of it is Arthur Smith, who I think will be good, but he is a first-year head coach, and so he ended up 27th on my rankings just because I start off with those guys being lower. And I think this is a way that maybe my system could be flawed with the first-year head coaches because I just don't – he's such a wild card. Who knows? He could be great. He could suck. We just don't know because we haven't seen him yet. Also, with some positives, best positive I have about this team is Matt Ryan. I have him as a tier 2 quarterback at this point in his career.
I mean, he still is, and anyone who's trying to argue otherwise, I think, is crazy because he's still a good quarterback. He still puts up numbers, and he's still been able to be really good with this offense, even if it's not MVP level Matt Ryan. I thought the people saying that they should draft someone at number 4, I thought were crazy. I think he could still be a productive player and lead this team.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll get into, the halfback position. I like Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson. I have as a halfback. You could argue. I mean, he's a he's a kick returner. It's a tier 4 running back room for me.
This definitely is a difficult group because I mean, nobody with Mike Davis is really excited about an offense or a running back room. But the strength of this team is they're going to throw the ball. They have strong pass catching options. They just need to be able to provide a little bit of resistance because they're going to throw the ball so much and the emphasis is going to be on their passing game. I think there's going to be lanes for them to probably look a little better than tier 4, even if they're a tier 4 group.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I like Mike Davis. I like what I saw from him in Carolina last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can be solid. He's just, would you consider him a number 1 option consistently?
It's hard to say because we've only really seen him do it for 1 year. So last year, I mean, what's a number 1 option? Is it a top 32 running back? I'd probably say he's a top 32 running back.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that'd be pretty close. I'm trying to think of.
I would say that last year he was a top 20 running back.
Last year, yeah, I guess that's fair. I just think there's also new players in the league too. I was thinking, Cleveland probably has a couple running backs better than him. Jacksonville has a couple running backs better than him, I think. It'll be close, but yeah, I think he's in the conversation. That's fair. Tier 4, I guess, fits though because there are better options out there.
Exactly, there are, and we've only seen it for 1 year, so there is a bit of a risk. And again, you don't get any extra points for tier 4 or tier 5, so there you go. Also, the wide receiver room, I have a tier 4 as well. It was one spot away from tier 3, so it's close. But with Calvin Ridley, who I think is really good, and even Russell Gage, I think is underrated. But after that, you have Taji Sharp, who's kind of a role player. Kyle Pitts, obviously, we all love as a prospect, but he's a rookie tight end, and these guys don't tend to, it takes a minute for them.
I guess my counter to this will be I don't think he's going to line up as a traditional tight end. They still have Hayden Hurst, who I think is a good tight end. He's going to be able to line up on off tackle. I think he's going to be kind of that H-back role sort of and playing split out a little bit more too. I don't think he's necessarily going to line up right off the tackle. And so I think he's going to be put in more pass catching situations than blocking situations, which is going to help him early on because that's easy. That's easier to translate into the league than the blocking schemes. So I think that's where he's going to succeed at.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point. And they don't feel like a tier 4 to me. They feel like a tier 3. There's only so many spots, so they ended up the odd team out. But if you have them as tier 3, I wouldn't even really argue with that, which would bump them up ahead of Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I would probably put him tier 3 because I look at it as Ridley's the 1 option, Pitts is the 2 option, Hurst is the 3 option, and then Gage is your 4th option. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. I guess that's fair. So round it out. So that you might be right about that. That might be one that I have maybe a bit too low on. But we'll stick with it for now. I said it there, so I'm going to keep it there. Offensive line now. Jake Matthews is solid. And Caleb McGarry, I thought was okay last year. Chris Lindstrom is maybe he was good last year. Then you have Jalen Mayfield, who was a third-round selection. Lindstrom and Mayfield guards, McGarry and Matthews tackles. And then Matt Hennessy is the center, who was a third-rounder in 2020. He wasn't good, but he didn't play a ton. It's a tier 4 offensive line for me to round out the offense. So I'm not crazy high on the offense. I have them as the 19th best offense, and a good chunk of that is because of Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I think there is room to improve with this offensive line. Jake Matthews should honestly turn his name into Jake Matthews is solid, because just about everything I read about him basically is that's what people say. I think that if you look at McGarry got better last season, Hennessy is going to have a year under his belt. All of a sudden then you could have a pretty decent left tackle, center, right tackle, which I think is the 3 most important spots in the line. Having that sort of foundation, I think could be a good start. And then, like I said, I think the receivers can be solid too. I think they're going to be a little better than was rated. So then all of a sudden, maybe you could tack on another win or two there if you build that group out and they improve.
Yeah, fair enough. For the coverage, you have AJ Terrell, who I wouldn't be shocked if he takes that year to jump. But the rest of the stuff, you have Isaiah Oliver, Kendall Sheffield, who's whatever. Eric for the safeties, Eric Harris, Deron Harmon, and then the second rounder that I believe you were high on, Richie Grant, for a safety. Their best coverage guy is their linebacker Dion Jones, who's fantastic. And then you have Foysail Alukin, who's sort of an all-around linebacker. He's fine himself. It's a tier 4 unit for me. I think that we need to see AJ Terrell take a jump, even though I thought he was solid last year. But I would like to see him take a step forward. And then I still worry about their corner depth, especially. So it's a concern for me.
Yeah, Terrell really struggled, I thought, to start the year. I thought he got a lot better by the end of it. And like you said, I could see him honestly end up being the best corner from that draft class all of a sudden. I thought he was solid. I don't love the safeties. Harmon's always kind of been a guy where it's I like him as my 3rd or 4th safety, not my starting strong safety. I think Grant is going to get a significant amount of playing time. I think he could have an Antoine Winfield kind of season. I think he has those sort of capabilities, especially just the nose for the football aspect, I think is something that he just has. And I thought that was something that Winfield had too. So I could see him making an impact for this team. And then, like you said, Dion Jones is a stud. Maybe a little underrated because he's been stuck in a division with Levante David and Luke Kuechly basically his whole career. But he is a very good linebacker. So, yeah, I think he's going to be a big part of this defense too.
Yeah, man. Even these past couple of years, Mario Davis with the Saints. So it's a great linebacker division. At least Kuechly's gone, but other than that, for their front 7, Grady Jarrett he's the highlight on the interior. After that, you have Tyler Davidson, Dante Fowler Jr., and Jacob Tuaiti Mariner. I'm not sure. It's not a lot of great stuff outside of Grady Jarrett. Their run defense is tier 4. Their pass rush is tier 5 for me, putting their defense at 29th in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, that feels fitting. This group wasn't good last season. They didn't add a whole ton to it just yet. I think it's got to get a little better and improve. And I mean, honestly, they have to be better at this. That's what's going to hold them back from a playoff spot this year, I think, is that this defense just isn't good enough, and there's not enough pieces that were added to it.
Yeah. Young Wei Koo, maybe he's the real bright spot of this team. He's tier 1, so they got that going for him. 27th team in the NFL. I have them as about, I think, 0.15 or something like that, 0.1 something wins less than the Panthers. So they're basically a push with those two.
So they're neck and neck.
Mm-hmm.
I think this team could overperform itself a little bit. Just looking at, there was a lot of one-score losses last year, a lot of close losses too, a lot of bad losses because of blown leads. Now, that being said, we keep saying that the statistics say that one-score losses and that kind of stuff is something that can be reversed. But this team finds ways to lose games better than anybody I've ever known. I don't know if it's just the franchise's best quality or something like that, but they just keep finding ways to do it. So maybe they can find another way to do, a way to win a couple of these games, or maybe they're just cursed. So I think that's going to be the big thing with Atlanta. They got to find a way to win games in the fourth quarter.
Well, I would also point out that, like Raheem Morris was really good at times last year and had some really good game plans. He's not there anymore. So, again, Arthur Smith could replace that on the offensive side of the ball. But, that's another aspect there.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot adds into it. I did have Atlanta missing the playoffs. Like I said, though, I did have them a little better than what you had them ranked. But I do think this team's still on the outside.
What's your a rough estimate of what you would give their record?
When I did it just now, I had them at 8-9.
Okay, gotcha. So sort of a mediocre team. I have them as a little bit below that. I wouldn't be shocked if they overperform. I think it could depend on how well maybe the receivers play and maybe how good of a job does Kyle Pitts do in his first year.
Yeah, if Kyle Pitts is killing it his first year, then maybe this team could compete for a spot. But yeah, I do have them on the outside still.
Yeah. All right. So 2 teams left. Where are you going?
All right, number 2. I think the reports of the Saints' death have been greatly exaggerated. I think they're still going to be in the conversation. They're the number 2 seed in the NFC South for me still, though. They are a step below Tampa. And, I mean, that's going to come down to the quarterback. I think the quarterback is going to be a problem. But I think Sean Payton's one of those coaches where it's like, hey, I kind of trust him. I kind of believe in what he does. And I think he's just going to be able to patchwork this together because – even though I don't know if the Taysom Hill thing is sustainable for 17 games a season, the times where Drew Brees got hurt, they did fine. They were fine. So I think that this could still be a pretty good team. So I got the Saints here at number 2 and battling for a wild card spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the highlights of this team is Sean Payton. He was the 4th best coach on my rankings. And as you mentioned, the quarterbacks are interesting. So is Taysom Hill going to be the starter? Like, that's what it appears to be, right? I mean, Taysom Hill is getting, there was reports about it. I feel like, I remember specifically I brought up, like, well, let's not crown Winston as the starter just yet. And I feel like I got pushback on that. I think a lot of us feel like Winston should be the starter. Why do you think the Saints are going with Hill here?
Because Jameis Winston isn't a good quarterback. I mean,
I guess so. I mean, he's not horrible.
I mean, yeah, sure, he's not horrible, but, I would rather have a less talented quarterback than Jameis Winston if it means less turnovers. And even in the game yesterday, he threw an interception. So
I mean, his interception was a tipped pass, and Hill threw an interception as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think all 3 of them did. Maybe Ian Book starts. No,
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, so I had Winston as a tier 4 quarterback. I think I'm still gonna go with Tua was the best tier 5. I'm debating between, do I want to go with Hill as tier 4 or tier 5? I'm keeping it in my notes as tier 4 for now. It could be bounced down to tier 5 with Hill as the starter. I think Winston's the better player. I do think that, we can say, the Saints won with Hill. Their offense was worse last year with Hill in terms of points per drive than with Brees in.
Yes, I mean, I had some numbers on this. So based off Warren Sharp posted these, third down conversion rate with Brees for the Saints last year was 53%. Without him was 44%. Obviously, Brees' interception rate was much lower than Winston and lower than Taysom Hill's, and his sack rate was lower than both of those other guys too by a significant margin. So, I mean, there's just things that Brees did that neither of these guys are going to be able to do, which is going to hurt this team, and I think it's going to lower their win total. I just think that Peyton's going to be able to figure some things out with this team overall.
Yeah. How is Winston continuing to sign with the Saints to be a backup quarterback? Like, someone would give him a starting job, right?
Would they?
I think so. I think that, would Denver at least take him on? At least maybe, I mean, I feel like they would at least give him a shot. I guess you could argue the Saints are giving him a shot too, like a chance to win the job. Maybe he's just not performing in practice. I don't know.
Maybe he likes the crab legs in New Orleans.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a short enough drive to nearby Publix, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, I don't know. Like, I guess you'd say Denver is the one team that you could look at and say, yeah, they'd probably let him compete for the job. I don't know, though. Would he actually win the job there, though? Would they actually want him to start quarterback? I think people
like he's better than Sam Darnold. Like, I feel like he's a top 32 quarterback in the NFL. Maybe that doesn't mean he gets a job, but to me, he does feel like a top 30. And it's weird because there's so many, there's 5 teams that are probably going to end up starting a rookie at some point. So that's where stuff gets weird. But still, I feel like you can't tell me that he's not better than some of these guys who are about to start for their teams.
I just think that the turnover problems are going to scare teams away. There's teams that are not going to even touch him with a 10-foot pole because of the interception issues, and I think it's warranted. So I think that's something that he's looking at basically a third of the NFL giving him a shot because no one's going to touch him with those interception issues, and I don't think that's ever going to change. I mean, look at why Denver is trying to get off of Drew Lock now because of the interception issues. You think they're going to turn around and get Winston, who has the same issue?
Well, I think that Winston does a lot more well than Drew Lock does.
Yeah, sure, but he still turns the ball over a lot too.
There's no denying that Jameis Winston turns the ball over a lot. I just think that there's enough he does well pushing the ball downfield to warrant him getting, being a fringe starter and a tier 5 starter. I have him as a tier 4 quarterback, so I have him as not even just a top 32. I have him as a top, I guess he was 25th in terms of the starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he finds a way to turn around. Maybe he gets this job here, but yeah, I mean, it's looking like I'm not a Taysom Hill guy either, so I don't know why I'm arguing him for him so much. Sean Payton likes Taysom Hill. I don't know if it's stubbornness or something, but I think he is going to start for this team.
Yeah, well, so here's the guy, and I guess here's where it gets interesting because these are the list. Well, we're spending a while on this, but I think it's fine. I think it's interesting. The guys who I had lower on the list, you have Jalen Hurts. Okay, obviously Philly's going to stick with him. Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones. I think you could argue the Giants maybe with Daniel Jones. I think I'd probably rather have Winston. You have Tua, give him another year. That makes sense. The Bears with Justin Fields. And then you have, Houston. I think Houston definitely would rather have Jameis Winston than Tyrod Taylor. I think that, Teddy Bridgewater in Denver and Sam Darnold in Carolina. I think those are all spots where he could go. I also think New Orleans is a spot where he should go, quite frankly. I don't hate Taysom Hill. I do think Winston is the better player.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably argue he is too, but like I said, unless he figures out some of his stuff, I don't know. And, they're the ones who are watching him in practice every day. Maybe they're seeing something that we're not. Maybe he's still turning the ball over a ton in practice. I don't know what's happening with it. I do think that he's given a chance to start, and I think he could start. And like I said, I think he is probably the better quarterback. But maybe they're just looking at Taysom Hill and saying, hey, we can be an elite running football team with Taysom Hill and our running back. So maybe that's what they're looking at.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing. Let's talk about it. So you have let's use this conversation to build off of it by going up to another category. We'll use the wide receiver / tight end room. You have Michael Thomas for now. Again, we don't know how he is currently a New Orleans Saints player, so that is a thing. You have Traquan Smith and Marquez Callaway for tight ends. Adam Troutman, Nick Vannett, and maybe Taysom Hill if Jameis Winston starts. So this is kind of like there was I know John Boyes made a video about a similar situation with a Browns player a few years back, but this is kind of a weird situation as well where when you start Jameis Winston, you also get Taysom Hill as an option, whereas when you start Taysom Hill, you now are losing an option. That's not something that you would completely make the decision for, but it is another factor there and could be a tiebreaker at least.
It could be. It depends on what they want to do. I know there's a lot of hype for Adam Troutman this offseason. I guess I'll kind of believe it when I see it, but there's a lot of people really excited for him. They could just continue to run those same play sets and then have Hill also throw the ball. But I don't know how exactly it's going to work. I don't know how they're going to balance it. So it's really tough to tell. But yeah, you are kind of losing that option, like you said, if you start Hill at quarterback, which could hurt the team overall, but at the same time, I don't know if it's pushing the needle that much one way or the other.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing to me is, so again, using this to build off of, the halfback room is, I have it as tier 1 with Alvin Kamara. You also have Latavius Murray, who's a really good number 2 option as well. So I have this as a tier 1 room. You have a great running game regardless. And let's even finish up the offense. We'll talk about the offensive line, which is also tier 1. Teron Armstead, Ryan Ramczyk as the tackles. One of the best tackle combos in the league. You have guards Anders Pete and Cesar Ruiz. Looks like he'll be moving to guard with Eric McCoy back at Cesar Ruiz is guard. He moved to guard after the draft, and then you have Eric McCoy as center, who is very good as well. This is it's a tier 1 offensive line, tier 1 running back room. You're going to have a good running game, and now you can have the better thrower do it. I think that makes more sense to me because with Taysom Hill, I don't know if you have a passing game that much. With Winston, I think you have the better passing game, even with not as great receivers. Winston, Winston got what was his name? The guy from the Buccaneers, Perriman, who he got him paid with a big game. Like he can make not great receivers still work. So to me, that's why I say that. But again, I do get your point because I guess the flip side is, well, the running game could be even better with Hill at quarterback.
Yeah. What was your grade for the pass catchers?
It was tier 5.
Tier 5. Okay, so do you think Michael Thomas is on this team September 5th, September 8th, whatever it is?
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. That situation's weird. I don't know what his deal is, but I think it's making a really interesting dynamic with this team. They could trade Thomas and just say we're abandoning the passing game altogether.
No more forward pass.
Yeah, exactly. Revolutionizing football.
Go back to the wishbone offense.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's some weird stuff going on with that team. I don't know what's going to happen. Michael Thomas, New England's great this time of year. If you want to go up there, that's okay too. I probably would start Winston too if I was in charge, but I'm not in charge, obviously. So I don't know what would happen, but at the same time, like I said, I think the argument is we can be very good running the football if we start Taysom Hill, and that's what we want to do. That could be the argument. Just say, hey, we're going to be really, really good at this one thing and just bad at passing. But I don't know. I think it's a really weird situation.
Yeah, and all that being said, I have them as the 16th best offense because of how good their running back room and offensive line is. So there's a lot of good here, too, with the offense, even with some weird situations.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of this is going to come down to who they end up deciding at quarterback and what happens with Michael Thomas. I do think he ends up playing for the Saints this season. But yeah, I think this is something that's going to be debated all year. I don't even think this is going to be decided by week 1. I think they're going to have this debate all year of which one of these guys should be the quarterback.
Over under on how many quarterback changes happen at, let's put it at 1.5.
Non-injury related? So
non-injury related, correct. An injury means it's a push because, then the question is moot regardless.
Yeah, I think I'd go over.
Okay, so you think that Hill will start, Winston will come in, and then Hill will come back?
Potentially, yeah. I could see that
see it happening. Yeah, I really could. I think it's, or maybe even an Ian Book start, who knows? I think it's, how about this? Over under passes Ian Book throws in not garbage time at 0.5.
I'll by default take over.
Okay. You think that he gets an actual meaningful snap in this game, in a game this season?
I could see it. I don't know. I don't love either of these options, honestly. We are debating it. We've been debating it. I don't love either of these options all that much.
All right. So let's go on to the defense now. Coverage is interesting because they love to have 1,000 safeties with New Orleans. We'll start off with them. Malcolm Jenkins, who was solid last year, not what he once was, but is solid. Marcus Williams is very good. They franchise tagged him to keep him here. You also have PJ Williams, and it looks like I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson might be going to safety. He was a solid corner, but again, they have a lot of corners now with Marshawn Lattimore. They have Patrick Robinson, who is in his 12th year and hasn't seen more than 250 snaps since 2017 with Philadelphia. So he's a wild card. They had also drafted Paulson, Adebo, and again, Gardner-Johnson. He'll be a safety or a corner. The reports I made this 2 months ago. I should have updated that. So we'll see what that is. But he's maybe just a 5th DB is what will be his role. And then with Pete Warner and Demario Davis at the linebacker position, it's good coverage. I do think they could use a little bit more corner depth. So this is a tier 3 unit, but it's not bad whatsoever.
No, I think that's fair. It's not bad. I think they still have good players. I think Gardner Johnson will play that kind of slot role. I guess the one question is going to be that second spot, because that's something we talked about with a few other teams. It's like you could have great secondary players at safety spots, your starting corner, your linebacker spot, but it just takes one bad cornerback to kind of derail a good coverage unit. Can they kind of patch together with some of the young guys or some of those options that they have? Can they patch together a good second corner option next to Lattimore? I think that's going to be the big question with this team.
Yeah. Also, thanks to the chat letting me know Patrick Robinson is retired. So again, should have looked that up before doing this. I was busy yesterday with all the preseason stuff. So thanks for the chat. JRad 410 is the first. I've never seen someone with the numbers be 410. You know, it's always 420, right?
Yeah, maybe that's his birthday.
Maybe. Yeah. I guess so. Perhaps. Anyways. But yeah. Again, with the way they prioritize their defense, the Saints. It's all about up front, and up front is very good. You have Shai Tuttle, you have David Omniata, you know what I mean? David, who is very good. Struggling to pronounce his name right here. I swear, once if someone said it, I could say it back. In my head, I can say it. The words aren't coming out of my mouth. Cam Jordan, one of the great both run defender and pass rusher, really good edge rusher. And Marcus Davenport can do it all as well. Already mentioned the linebackers. Warner had a good preseason game. This is a tier 1 run defense and a tier 2 pass rush, putting them at the 11th best defense in football, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, this is a really good group, and it continues to be a really good group. I don't think they're going to miss a beat without Trey Hendrickson, because I think Trey Hendrickson benefited more from playing with these guys rather than these guys playing with Trey Hendrickson. I think he's a solid pass rusher, but yeah, I mean, the core of this group's still there. I still think they're going to be very good, and it's going to be a good defense.
Yeah. King Kamara gave the Saints wow, Alvin Kamara is here in the chat right now, Kyle. Can you believe it?
Hey, Alvin, come on the podcast.
yeah, exactly. Will Lutz, tier 2 kicker. This is a sneaky good kicker division, by the way. Throwing that out there. So for the Saints, I do not have them as a playoff team, but I have them very close. They're only 0.63 wins away from San Francisco, who is in the 7th seed in the NFC. I have them as the 8th best team in the NFC, 13th best team in football. So I have them as a top 14 team. But I think the NFC is a little bit tougher than the AFC in terms of those fringe playoff team spots. It's a 9.63 win team. I think that this is an above average team, and they should compete for a playoff spot. And if they can get tier 3 quarterback play, this is the playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, I even think if they get solid tier 4 quarterback play consistently, like, upper tier 4, not necessarily the last quarterback on tier 4 quarterback play, I think that this could be a playoff team still. I think the defense is still going to be very good. I think that they could still run the ball really well, control the clock. Maybe they can limit, some of the time of possession stuff and kind of just make games ugly. Or they can just have, Alvin Kamara be Alvin Kamara, and he could end up the offensive player of the year by the end of the season because he's carrying this team to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think I agree. So, shall we move on to what we're all here to see? Number 1, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kyle, why are you so high on the Buccaneers this year? And I think it's kind of obvious, but go ahead anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that you see a team bring back 22 starters from a Super Bowl champion. That's exactly what Tampa Bay did here. They have all of the pieces back. They still got young players on this team that I think can get even better too. I don't know if it's going to be a better team than the end of season last year, but I think that they can get better. OJ Howard's back too. I think there's a lot to this team to like. I mean, look, you just look at this roster. There's nothing bad about it. You look at, there's not a weakness to this team. I think they can be good just about everywhere, and they're great in a lot of areas. Tampa Bay's an NFC contender. They might be the Super Bowl favorite. I don't know if they're going to go back-to-back, but they're certainly going to be in the conversation. I have them at number 1 in the NFC South.
Yeah. Let's talk about the 2 main guys of Bruce Arians. He was 13th in our coaching rankings. He's not an exceptional coach, but the one thing I say is that I think he deserves a lot of credit for the Super Bowl championship of just turning the culture around. And when he came in, it kind of felt, okay, this is the guy who has had established success in the NFL. He's someone that you can expect can do well. He might not be the best at X's and O's. It drives me crazy as as an analytics guy. The fact that he clearly is not, that does drive me crazy at times. But there's a reason why TB12 came to Tampa Bay, and a big part of it was because of the work Bruce Arians had done the year before, turning it into a perennial loser to a team that was a quarterback away from winning. And yeah, like with Tom Brady, he's a tier 1 quarterback even at 44 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the system was purely Bruce Arians' system, and I don't think the system was purely what we saw Tom Brady do a lot with New England too. I thought what they did really well, especially by the end of the season. Once they hit that last bye week, I felt like, and made some adjustments, I felt like this was the perfect marriage of the two systems that felt so polar opposite at the beginning of the year. And I thought they really figured out how to stretch the ball downfield while also exposing mismatches and, reading coverages a lot better like Brady likes to do. So I thought this was a nice marriage between the two systems by the end of the year. And I think they should hit the ground running this season and be just fine.
Yeah. So Tom Brady threw 40 touchdowns last year. I guess over under 39.5 touchdowns this year.
I mean, I'll take the under, but I think they're going to be fine overall. They're going to throw the ball, though. They're going to have plenty of options to throw to, as we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, I'll say over. Screw it. I'll go full homer. Yeah, I think I'll throw 70 touchdowns. No, but I think I'll say he throws 40 again. How about that? The worst part of this team is the running back room. Although they have a lot of guys now. You have Leonard Fournette, who playoff Lenny. You got Ronald Jones, who really is just a runner. He doesn't do too much else well. Horrible pass blocker. Keyshawn Vaughn, who I was excited to see last year, didn't get a lot of playing time. And then they added Giovanni Bernard, who they want to make as a pass catcher. It's interesting because I do feel like you have Ronald Jones, who's a runner, you have Bernard, who's a pass catcher, and you have Fournette, who's he's turned himself into a good blitz pick protector towards the end of the season. If you could just combine them all three into one player, they'd be really good.
Yeah. I think this job is begging to be taken by Keyshawn Vaughn. I continue to say I think he's going to be good. I really liked him in college. I think the hardest thing for rookie running backs to pick up, and one of the reasons why it definitely affected Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City, and I think it also affected Vaughn, is blitz pickup. Like you said, I think that's a big thing, and that's why Leonard Fournette was on the field at the end of the season, because Brady trusted him to pick up blitz. If Vaughn can do that, I think he's going to get a ton of playing time because I think he is supremely talented. So yeah, I mean, I think this job is kind of begging to be taken by somebody else. I think Leonard is good enough, though, is the thing.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing is it is kind of a low floor. I do have it as a tier 5 room. But if you're going to be bad in one area in football, running back room, probably that area to be bad.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have to worry about it too much. And I think one of the things we saw is the style they play. I mean, you can criticize not running the ball on first down all the time. They start to wear teams down, though. They wear defenses down, and they ran the ball pretty well in the playoffs, too, because of it, because they were just wearing opponents down and then getting big gains.
Yeah, well, I would also argue a big part of why they're able to have success in the ground game at times is because of what you have to deal with over the top. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. Those are the three. Antonio Brown was the best wide receiver in football 3 years ago. Now he's their third option. You have Scotty Miller and Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson as depth guys. You have, for tight ends, O.J. Howard, Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Brate. This is a loaded receiving core. This is the best receiving option room in football.
Yeah, and part of also the helping the running back is having Gronkowski and O.J. Howard out there, too, that can block as well. That's another thing to add to it. Is this the best vertical wide receiving option in the league?
Yeah.
I mean, with Scotty Miller out there, it's insane. We saw in that Green Bay Packers play. The coverage was bad, but at the same time, they sent all those guys deep, and the secondary just freaked out. They didn't know what to do with that.
There was a reason why Kevin King was on Scotty Miller. It's because they didn't want to have him on Mike Evans or Chris Godwin.
Yeah. So, I mean, they just throw those guys deep, and it's so hard to cover all three of them. All of them, are quick. All of them have great hands. All of them can win 50-50 balls. And then you have Antonio Brown just coming across the middle for, a nice 20-yard gain, too. He can also do that. So I think all those options are really good. I think they're deep there, and I think it's, I think it's a dangerous team.
Yeah, I mean, what? Their fourth best deep option is Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. I mean, it's ridiculous. We've never seen a team with this many options. And as someone who I believe these games are won on the outside, well, I think Tampa Bay winning the Super Bowl last year is a big testament to that. Although, if you want to say they're won in the trenches, you can say that as well, because this is not a team that is particularly bad with their offensive line. In fact, that's tier 1 as well. The weak spot is Donovan Smith, who's solid. He's not a bad tackle. It's the weirdest thing in sports. They paid a bad left tackle top 5 tackle money, and then all of a sudden he became a good player. Very bizarre. Tristan Wirfs had a great rookie season at right tackle last year. For guards, Alex Kappa, and then Ali Marpet, who's been one of the better guards in the league for quite some time now, and Ryan Jensen, a very good center as well. There's no weakness here. Part of it, I wonder how much Tom Brady helps these guys. It's clearly some, but they're good regardless. This is a tier 1 offensive line.
I mean, I think he's helped a lot, and I think Rob Gronkowski's helped a lot, and I think Leonard Fournette has helped a lot. I think all of those guys contributed to the pass blocking. It's not just the 5 guys up front. Wirfs is looking more and more like the best pick in the draft. If you want to go by first-round picks, I mean, Justin Jefferson, obviously in the conversation too, the quarterbacks as well. But I mean, he's insane. He was really good. He was the best tackle I thought from the first year of those. One of the things we always said was that it was a 4-tackle draft class. He's looking like the best of the bunch, and I think they got him last too, didn't they?
Yep.
So
they traded up 1 spot to get him.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought that was a good pick, great pick, and he's looking like an absolute stud on that team.
Yeah. So offense, I have 3rd best offense in football. There's a little bit of ways you could, only the Cleveland Browns and the Tennessee Titans I have as better, and that's they have tier 1 running back rooms, where the Bucs have a tier 5, but still the 3rd best offense in football. This is a loaded team, and even again, while I do have the running back room as tier 5, there's still guys here. So, and not to mention all of the depth they have here. It's a good, as long as Tom Brady doesn't fall off a cliff, this is a really good offense.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be just fine. I mean, he could even slip a little bit, and I still think they're going to be really good offensively. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a really deep and talented group, and why people are picking them to win the Super Bowl again.
Yeah. The weakness of this team, we'll go over to defense now. The big weakness of this team, I'd probably say, is their coverage, which isn't even bad. I have it as tier 3. You have Carlton Davis, who's their best man corner, not the fastest, but does everything else very well. Jamel Dean, I mean, honestly, maybe you can make the argument that Dean should be that number 1 corner. He is very good. He's got the speed to, really be on an island. And you have Sean Murphy-Bunting, who really came alive in the postseason and is even solid in the regular season. Safeties, Antoine Winfield Jr., who, could have been Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. Jordan Whitehead, who was very good as well. And Mike Edwards, who doesn't play a lot, but is typically good when he plays, did intercept Drew Brees in the playoff game. Not to mention Levante David, and then Devin White, who did start to clean up his coverage issues a little bit during that playoff run. It's a tier 3 coverage unit, largely because, their corners, I'm not sure if they have like the elite guys, but they definitely have, they're a team that they can, for the most part, there's depth here, and they, can cover everybody at least somewhat well. So I have it as tier 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pro Football Focus actually had them as the 8th best coverage unit or secondary in the league. So, they're a little bit higher on it than you are. I think you're a little harsh on it, but yeah, I mean, I guess you could say the lack of a true number 1 guy is what hurts it, but I think they have 3 good cornerbacks that I can trust. And then they have 2 really good safeties. I feel like I really like this group overall. David's obviously a monster in coverage. White's better, but he's more of the run guy, but he can do a little bit of everything. This is a really good group.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have him as 12th, so I actually have him as just 1 spot away from tier 2. But I would say where this team has clearly had struggles last year was in zone coverage. I mean, watch the Saints Sunday night game. Still gives me nightmares of they just did not know what they're doing. I think that's still a fair criticism to put on this coverage unit.
Yeah, I think maybe the momentum and what they did in the playoffs might change some things. I think that, that could carry them into this season and look, awesome again.
Yeah, I think it's an above average unit is what I say. Now we'll move over to the front 7. This is where this team really shines on defense. And, I am someone who I prefer building from the back front. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have gone the opposite route with their defense, but they still have a solid secondary. You have Vita Vea, who is incredible. You have Sue and Will Goldson as the other interior guys. The edge, Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett, and then for linebackers, David and White. It's the best run defense in football, in my opinion. Tier 1 there, and it's still a Tier 1 pass rush unit, which puts this defense at 7th best in football because I do value coverage highly, but still a very good defense. And when you pair that with the 3rd best offense, also Tier 2 kicker with Ryan Suckup, I have this as a 13.92 win football team. It's a very good team.
Yeah, I mean, they're loaded overall. I think all of those players are really good. They're all really productive. My affinity for Devin White has been well documented on this podcast. He's just electric to lost at linebacker. I guess maybe the one criticism you could have is, there are some questions about the depth of the group, but at the same time, I still feel pretty good about it. I also like Joe Treon, the guy they drafted too. I think he might be able to make an impact too right away. So overall, it's an awesome group, and they're going to be really good next season.
Yeah, so I have this team as the best in the NFC and the 2nd best in football. I still do have the Cleveland Browns higher than them. Also, the battery on my headphones is about to die, so I have to change that real quick. So if you can kill a minute while I do that, that would be great.
Yeah. So we're talking a little bit about Tampa Bay. I do think they are going to be awesome this next season. I think that they have talent across the board, and there's not really anything you can talk about. I think that it could be interesting to see this team next season, and I think Devin White could take an even further leap into becoming maybe the best linebacker in football, and then all of a sudden we're having a conversation of, is he Defensive Player of the Year with the rest of this group? I think that this team could. Like I said, there's young players on this team I think can get even better. I can't hear you. Did you reconnect your mic?
Here we go. I took my mic off when I went to change it so I didn't make background noise and then forgot to turn it back on. All right, so we're good. I hope you didn't, make fun of me while my headphones were off.
No, I said my question or my thought, and I'll pass it as a question to you. A little bit of outsider chance, maybe a little sprinkle on the gambling books. Devin White, Defensive Player of the Year. What do you think?
No.
Just don't trust a linebacker to win the award?
I don't trust a linebacker to win the award. I also don't trust Devin White to win the award. I mean, I get it. He makes splash plays, and definitely he gets more recognition. I guess it's possible, but I don't know. I think that he's not even the best linebacker on his team. I think it would be. I could see it happening in one of those years where he totally doesn't deserve it, but ends up winning it due to a narrative.
It could be. Yeah. I also just think he still has room to grow, and I think he's going to get even better in coverage. I mean, you just look at him play with his speed, with his, nose for the football. There's no reason he should be bad in coverage. I think he's going to continue to get better at it, and he'll become even good in coverage, I think. And then, one of the things I talked about with the secondary too, it's all young guys. I think the secondary can get even better. This defense, I think, is going to be a lot better than it was last year. And last year it was pretty good. MV is going to be healthy the whole year, hopefully. Knock on wood, which just adds even more to this team.
Yeah, no, I mean, he definitely matters as well. Interesting. So, shall we get into the? And again, I think their defense is very good as well. Should we get into the overall, overall final predictions for this?
Yeah. So we've wrapped up all of our previews now. Like I said, go back and listen to the other 7 division previews if you missed them. So we're going to get into it now with the predictions for the season. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, how about this? I'll give my NFC, and then you give your NFC. Then I'll give my AFC. You give your AFC. Or do you want to do the awards first?
We can do the awards first.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do that first. I think about it. So we'll start off with. I'll give mine, then you give yours. That's how we'll do it. We'll start off with Coach of the Year. I was thinking about this. I have a couple of honorable mentions for each of these. I have Kyle Shanahan as an honorable mention because I could see San Francisco bouncing back. Also, Ron Rivera. I think that the Washington football team could overperform. But I'm actually going Sean McVay here. I think that I could see the Rams really, challenging for a number 1 seed. And I think that McVay could get a lot of credit because maybe the people aren't as high on the Rams as maybe they should be. So I'm going to go McVay with my Coach of the Year pick.
Yeah, McVay was my number 1 option as an honorable mention. And I'll talk about it when I talk about the Rams here coming up. I think he is going to be in the conversation. I think Matt LaFleur might be in the conversation too. I think there's a few other guys that I think could also be in the conversation. Mike Vrabel is another guy I'm thinking about too. I went with Ron Rivera. I think that Washington is going to be a good football team this year. And because of the narrative of the NFC East just being this dumpster fire, I think Washington making the playoffs, even if they're the 4th seed, but are like a good 4 seed, I think that's going to be enough for the narrative to give Ron Rivera Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's not to mention with Ron Rivera, very likable guy. Obviously beat cancer. So the narrative is there as well.
Yeah, just the narrative, and yeah, I think that there's not. I mean, I think there are some expectations for the Rams this season. I think there's no expectations for Washington. Once again, Dallas has picked the favorite to win the NFC East, which just blows my mind. And I just don't think the division's that good, and the thought is that this division is going to be terrible, or I think Washington can be competitive.
Yeah, I think that's totally possible, and they could even win a couple extra games just being in a bad division as well, so that can go in. For Offensive Rookie of the Year, I have as my honorable mentions, I have Najee Harris as one because I could see him getting a lot of carries, and running backs are they hit the ground running, no pun intended. So I could see that happening. The two it really comes down to for me are Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. Those are two guys we know are going to be getting week 1 starts at the quarterback position. But I'm going to go Zach Wilson as my Offensive Rookie of the Year. Listen, I've been on Wilson this entire offseason. I think he's incredible. I think he is more pro-ready than Lawrence. So I think that he'll probably have to outperform Lawrence by a bit to get it because people are going to naturally sort of go towards Lawrence. But I'm going to stick with my guns, stick with the guy I've had faith in all offseason, and I'm going to go with Zach Wilson here.
I didn't even have honorable mentions. I have Trevor Lawrence. So, I mean, look, I put this as a lock right after the draft. I think this offense can be pretty good next season. They have a good offensive line, 2 good running backs. There's a lot of Travis Etienne buzz, multiple good receivers to throw to. I think this offense could be good. I think they actually, because that offense is going to be good, I think there might be a little outside chance playoff buzz. I have them missing, but they could be in the conversation more than we actually think with how bad that division is getting and Indianapolis being hurt already. So I think that's going to push Lawrence over the top, and I think Lawrence is going to be easily Rookie of the Year for offense.
Yeah, I don't think they'll make the playoffs.
I don't think they are either. I think that they could be better than we think because, I mean, Indianapolis being hurt, I think there's a realistic chance they're 3-3 in the division.
I'd be stunned if the Jaguars win 8 games this year. I'd be really shocked. They would need Lawrence would have to legit play like a top 5 quarterback, I think, for them to win, for them to be in playoff contention, for them to be in the hunt like week 15.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be in the hunt, but I don't know. I think that they're going to be able to win more games than we think.
Okay, I don't. I think they'll win less games than most people think.
Oh, we'll see what happens.
It's not Lawrence. I just don't like the team around. We'll go back and watch our AFC South preview for that one, and maybe we'll get into it when you pick the Jaguars to win the Super Bowl in a couple minutes. Defensive Rookie of the Year. I have 3 honorable mentions for this one. Micah Parsons, Jamon Davis, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who apparently had a big preseason game. I want to make a video on that, but I got to watch the Browns defense first. My pick, kind of a sneaky pick, I'm going Jalen Phillips. I think that he's a really good edge rusher from playing for the Miami Dolphins. And I think they blitz a lot. He could get some good bulk stats. There's not a clear cut, that's a defensive player of the year guy. There's 3 top 10 picks that were defense. Parsons was one of them. The other 2 were corners, so I don't trust winning that. So I'm going Phillips here.
Yeah, Phillips is a good option just because, he's the best pass rusher of this group. I think Kwity Paye is also up there. My honorable mentions were the linebackers, Parson Davis. I also had Christian Barmore. I think he's going to be really interesting in that Patriots defense. A little bit of a homer pick, but that's okay. I think he's going to move around a whole lot because I think he's going to be a nice 3-4 defensive end / 3rd down nose tackle. I think he's going to be able to do a lot in that role, and I think he could have a pretty good year there. But one of the guys, I've talked about him a few times, I think Zaven Collins is going to have a really good year. I could see him leading all rookies in tackles next season. I think he's just going to have the numbers, and that's going to be enough to push him Defensive Rookie of the Year. Without any great prospect, I think that the numbers are going to be enough to push him.
All right. Defensive player of the year. My two honorable mentions, TJ Watt, Aaron Donald. But I think with this new and improved Browns defense, I think this is Myles Garrett's year.
Yeah, I think we both picked him last year, didn't we?
I think so.
I went with Aaron Donald and had Myles Garrett as my honorable mention. I think those are basically the two options. TJ Watt's also there, but I think based on what I think the Rams are going to do next season, I think TJ Watt or Aaron Donald's going to get it, and I think it's a situation where it's just hard to pick against Aaron Donald anymore.
All right. Here, I have to go to the bathroom. Can you kill a minute?
Yeah, I will kill a minute.
All right. Sorry for keep leaving. But you.
All right. So, So I guess if anyone has a question, feel free to throw it my way. We've been going through this. Like I said, I have Ron Rivera as the coach of the year. I have Zayvon Collins and Trevor Lawrence as my rookies of the year. And I have Aaron Donald as my defensive player of the year. I honestly just think Aaron Donald's at the point where it's almost like picking the Spurs to win the championship in the 2000s. You kind of just put them in there because they're that good. Aaron Donald's that good, and he's going to change his team. And one of the things I'm going to talk about here is I think the Rams are going to be excellent this season, and I think he's going to be a big part of that with that defense, with Raheem Morris. I think he's just going to have a monster year once again. Tony Ravioli, I can't make the comments pull up like Jackson. Nick Bosa might have a shot, or will he still be hurt? I think Nick Bosa has a shot. I think Joey Bosa has a shot too, honestly. They're both very good defensive ends. I just think that there's too many guys that you highlight on that 49ers team to say, oh, Nick Bosa is the defensive player of the year. There's just too many guys that I think are really good on that team overall. Now, there are a lot of good guys on the Rams defense as well, but a lot of it is built around what Aaron Donald can do. I think that's the big thing. So that's where I have those. I still have offensive player of the year to talk about and MVP. Those will be interesting, and then we'll get into the playoff stuff as soon as Jackson gets back, and hopefully he's back soon because I've run out of stuff to talk about.
All right, I'm back. My mouse fell because I have this new setup, and it took me a second to get it. So that was fun. Where I got here, and I was like, okay, I'm back, and then I was trying to find where the mouse was, but I got it. We're good. We got let's see, we're on offensive player of the year now, right?
Offensive player of the year and MVP. That's what we have left.
Okay, so for offensive player of the year, I'm not going quarterback because it seems like it's usually like a non-quarterback. So I am going to go Derrick Henry is my pick because he just seemingly keeps getting better year after year. I also have Julio Jones. I think I could see him. And then Christian McCaffrey, because usually this tends to go to like who had the craziest stat that wasn't a quarterback on offense, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I ended up putting Kamara here. I think he's going to be a big reason why the Saints win games and are able to score points offensively. And I think that's why he's going to win it. I think, you can list almost any running back and have the conversation for it. Chubb, if he's healthy, could be in the conversation. Henry, McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, all of those guys can win Offensive Player of the Year. There's a couple receivers as well. Tyreek Hill. I'm interested to see if maybe one day we see a tight end win it. Could like a George Kittle or a Travis Kelce be in the conversation? I think that's the one thing that would be really interesting.
It kind of feels like, if it was going to happen, it probably would have happened with, one of these, Kelce seasons. But maybe it might need to be a week year around it as well. Probably the most interesting, award to talk about is the MVP. I'm going to stick with Aaron Rodgers. I think that he's the best quarterback. He won it last year. I'm going to stick with him this year. I see no reason not to. And I think, with Funchess looking good and albeit a preseason game, maybe there's another option there where they could have used that last year. The other ones I have are for honorable mentions, Mahomes, of course, and then Russell Wilson, just because people want Russell Wilson to win one so bad. So those are my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I didn't have Wilson on it just because if you go back and listen to our NFC South thing, I wasn't very high on the Seahawks. So it's obviously going to hurt his narrative. I went with Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's going to win MVP. I think he's going to be in the conversation. I think he was last year. Obviously, he wasn't going to be the favorite by any means because Rodgers was awesome. And I ended up having Josh Allen win the MVP because I think Buffalo's going to be in the conversation as a top 3 seed in the AFC. And he's going to be the big reason why. And they're going to throw the ball a ton, too. They're not going to have a strong running game. I think that they can patch it together to be enough, but they're not going to run the ball a whole lot. So he's going to have the chance to put up big numbers.
And what? No love for Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence, no. I did not have him as MVP this year. Come back to me next year.
Okay. All right. All right. Now we can get into the finale, the climax of this series, this 2-month long journey we've gone on. Shall I just run down to NFC, get to my Super Bowl prediction from the NFC, and then let you go?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So the way I have it is the 7 playoff teams I have in order of highest seed to lowest seed. First, the 4 division winners, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Rams, the Packers, and the Balls. The 3 wild card teams I have are the Vikings, the Seahawks, and the 49ers. There's 3 teams that are somewhat close. The Saints, we talked about them in this podcast. The other 2 teams that I have somewhat close, Cowboys and Cardinals, but those teams are, Cardinals are 2.5 wins away. Cowboys are 1.75 wins away. So I feel good about these 7. The teams I have advancing would be, I have Minnesota beating the Balls. That's the only wild card team I have advancing. But then other than that, I'm going with the Buccaneers would play the Vikings in the divisional round. The Rams would play the Packers in the divisional round rematch of last year's division round matchup. I do have Tampa Bay and the Rams playing each other in the NFC Championship game, with Tampa Bay winning and going to the Super Bowl. The way I did it this year was, last year I kind of did matchups a little bit. Now I'm just picking who I think is the better team. I think this is the better way to do it. So I have Tampa Bay, because you're not going to get every thing right down to the seeding. I'm just going to pick the better team to win each game, not worry about matchups. I think Tampa Bay is the best team in the NFC. I think they go to the Super Bowl for the 2nd straight year.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I think they're in the conversation, certainly. I still think people are still picking the rematch as the number 1 Super Bowl pick, I think. So I did a whole playoff predictors thing for this. So I went through the whole season, picked each game. Now,
okay.
I didn't have as many upsets as what would typically happen. So my rankings or my records are going to be skewed a little high. So keep that in perspective. Right. I don't think all these teams are going to finish with this record, but I think that, this is where I think the rankings are still right. So I had the Rams number 1 at 15-2, and the Buccaneers at number 2 at 15-2. Rams, I think, won the head-to-head, and that's why they got the tiebreaker. I think they played this year. I think that's what it was. I have Green Bay at number 3 at 14-3, and I have the Balls at 12-5. And that's part of the reason why I had Ron Rivera winning Coach of the Year, because I think if they win 12 games, I think he's going to win Coach of the Year. I actually had the 49ers a little better at 13-4 as the 5 seed. Okay. And then from there, I had the 6 and 7 seeds at 10-7, and that's the Saints and the Vikings. Those are my 7 playoff teams. I have the Cowboys at 9-8. I have the Cardinals and the Falcons at 8-9, and I have the Seahawks at 7-10. That was how I ranked the playoffs. But yeah, I have the Vikings and Saints rounding it out at 6 and 7 at 10-7. Going to my bracket, which is this one, I have the Buccaneers at the 2 seed beating the Vikings. I have the Packers beating the 6-seeded Saints. And I have the 4-seeded Balls upsetting at home the 49ers in the playoffs. Then I have the Rams beating the Balls. That's the end of the Balls run. I have in the rematch of the NFC Championship game in the divisional round, I have Tampa Bay beating Green Bay. I still think they're a better team. And then just because I wanted to go a little unconventional here, I have the Rams beating the Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game. The Rams are in the NFC, or in the Super Bowl representing the NFC for me.
Yeah, how dare you? No, I don't think that's crazy. I think the Rams are really good, and also it wouldn't be the first time the Rams beat the Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game. So that, for a team that has had very little playoff success, somehow we've lost to the Rams in multiple NFC Championship games.
Yeah, it's some bad luck there, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's weird, but one of those was like the 4th season we were a franchise. The Bucs lost, 26 straight games. No one ever talks about 4th season in. We made the NFC Championship game. Never gets brought up.
Well, now you're bringing it up. So now
we
you're gonna have to do a whole Bucs history podcast for us.
Yeah, be the change you want to be about history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right. So we're relatively on the same wavelength in the NFC. You have Seattle making the playoffs, I have Seattle making the playoffs. You have the Saints. Other than that, a little bit of seeding differences, but we have the same, 6 of the 7 teams and the same NFC Championship game predicted. For the AFC now, I'll go and give this. So again, in order, the 4 division winners: Cleveland, Kansas City, Tennessee, and Buffalo are my 4 predicting division winners. the wild cards, I have the Ravens as the 5 seed, Steelers as the 6 seed, and your New England Patriots as the 7 seed. The teams that are close, the Colts are within a half win of that 7 seed, so they're right there. Broncos within a win, so Denver has a chance, even with some questionable quarterback play, and the Chargers a win and a half. Wouldn't be shocked if either of those teams make it. But my division round is then going to be the Browns versus the Bills and the Chiefs versus the Titans. Those are all 4 division winners. Moving on, and I have the Browns beating the Bills. I have the Chiefs beating the Titans, meaning Browns Chiefs, a rematch of the anything is possible game, and I'm going to do it. The Cleveland Browns going all the way to the Super Bowl. Who would have thought that a couple years ago we'd be predicting a Browns Buccaneers Super Bowl? But here we are.
Yeah, I mean, that's an exciting pick. I think that'd be a really fun game. The city of Cleveland would just go nuts if they made it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that'd be a really fun Super Bowl. So I'd be all for it. I don't have the Browns making the Super Bowl. I have them pretty close, though. So
okay,
going with my side now, I have the Chiefs at 16-1, the Bills at 15-2. And I have the Titans and the Browns each at 12-5, with the Titans getting the tiebreaker advantage. My first wildcard spot is Baltimore at 11-6, New England at 10-7, and then I had 4 teams finish 9-8.
Okay.
I had the Steelers, the Dolphins, the Raiders, and the Chargers all finish 9-8. I ended because of the conference record, which is the tiebreaker. The Steelers made the playoffs with the 7-5 conference record as the 7th seed, meaning the Dolphins, the Raiders, and the Chargers all miss out. And then I had the Jaguars and Colts at 7-10. So
gotcha.
That's my playoffs. So going from there, just to be spiteful, I'm a homer, and I'm also still mad that was Brady's last game. I have the Patriots as the 6th seed beating the 3-seeded Titans. Okay. I do not care. Okay. I have the 2-seeded Bills beating the 7-seeded Steelers. Sorry. 7-seeded Steelers losing to the 2-seeded Bills. I have the 4-seeded Browns beating the 5-seeded Ravens. We've seen this playoff story enough. Going from there, 1-seeded Chiefs against the 6-seeded Patriots. I can't pick that. I got the Chiefs winning that one. And I got the 2-seeded Bills beating the 4-seeded Browns. So I got Bills and Chiefs rematch in the AFC Championship, to which now I have the Buffalo Bills making the Super Bowl. I actually have the Chiefs beating the Bills in the regular season. I got the Bills turning around and beating them in the playoffs. I think they've done just enough to make themselves competitive with the pass rush. They still have a very good secondary that I think is going to bounce back. I got the Bills in the Super Bowl.
Interesting. So we both have different teams representing. Why don't we let's have you go ahead. So you have the Rams versus the Bills. Will the Bills finally end the drought, or will this just be the start of another 4 straight Super Bowl losses?
I have the Bills winning the Super Bowl. Right after Josh Allen wins MVP, I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl. It's a passing league, and I think that they're one of the best teams at throwing the football. I think that the Bills are good enough to make it, and I think they're Super Bowl champions.
Bills super fan Kyle. This is crazy.
I need to go vomit right now, honestly, after picking this.
So you'll be hardcore rooting for the Bills to win the Super Bowl?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Well, so I have my favorite team, Tampa Bay and Cleveland. So everything I've done has been about the system. The system, there's more. Which team has the most wins? The Browns have the more wins by about half a win than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to trust the system. I also have a team ending the drought. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns winning the Super Bowl in 2021. If either one of us are right, it'd be great for a fan base.
And they might burn their own city to the ground too, so that'd be cool.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I could see either of these teams winning the Super Bowl. I think they're one of the 3 contenders in the AFC. I think I docked the Browns just a little bit, just because, while I still have them finishing 12-5, and I agree with you, they have the best roster in the league. As I look through those 4 teams, though, the 4 teams that win the division, as much as I think Baker Mayfield's made strides, he's still the worst quarterback of those 4. If you look at Mahomes, Allen, Ryan Tannehill, and himself, that's part of the reason why I docked them. So I think that that might hurt them in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I think they are a terrific roster. If we did an executive of the year position, award pick, the Browns GM would have won it the last 5 years. I feel like he's done a terrific job with this team.
Yeah. Someone brings up, love that Bucks, Bills, and Browns all in your combo for a Super Bowl. Imagine saying that 5 years ago. And Kansas City, honestly. I mean, I guess 5 years ago, but 10 years ago, they were one of the most tortured franchises in football.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, they've been able to turn it around, obviously having Patrick Mahomes help. So good stuff. Neither one of us has the Chiefs making the Super Bowl, which is bold. But yeah, I mean, this should be a fun NFL season. I think there are a lot of contenders in the AFC.
Yeah. Well, what's your nightmare scenario this season? Is it the Bills win the Super Bowl?
No, it'd probably be like Mahomes-Rodgers Super Bowl.
Okay.
Like at that point, just gouge my. I don't want to see Aaron Rodgers win the Super Bowl after this whole thing where he's posting The Last Dance like he's won 6 championships. Like, just gouge my eyes out.
I like Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. I feel like it's weird. I wouldn't mind seeing, but I feel like the Packers front office doesn't deserve it.
They definitely don't. And then Chiefs fans have made this whole experience insufferable for everybody else. So I don't want to see them in the Super Bowl again. But that's just my homer pick. So I'd be okay. I would love to see like a Browns Washington Super Bowl. That'd be really funny.
Yeah, that would be. Or what about a Vikings Bills Super Bowl? 2 teams that have lost 4 Super Bowls. One of
just
them
most tortured. Yeah.
Yeah, and that game would end up being like the wildest game ever because they would have to torture them as much as possible before one gets the win. I think my nightmare would be Jameis Winston has like an MVP season and wins the Super Bowl.
Or just like has like a Joe Flacco playoff where even if he is like mediocre throughout the season, then he goes like 13 touchdowns and an interception in the playoffs and wins the Super Bowl that way.
Yeah, that would be tough. Or maybe like another nightmare would be like if Zach Wilson only plays okay. Like that would be really like just a big nightmare.
Kellen Mond stinks.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's our not just our show, but that's the series. Next week we should. Our next week are we going to do should we do a power ranking show? Although we did kind of cover a lot of it this time, so maybe we can think about that. You want to do the most exciting thing that we were talking about? We're
we're going to pick the 20 most exciting storylines of the season.
Yeah. So next week we will be doing 20 most exciting, just things about next season. So things we're most looking forward to seeing, most excited to see is the way to phrase that. So make sure you stay on the lookout for that. Also, make sure you can listen to this podcast if you prefer listening to podcasts instead of watching on YouTube. Anywhere you get your podcast, the audio only feed should be available. And Kyle, let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That's at Jackson Kruger. I am at by Kyle Gronin. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, and then make sure to follow the show page. That's at On the Sideline JK on Twitter. Like I said, that's at On the Sideline JK. I'll post a link to this YouTube channel. I'll also post a link tomorrow to the podcast streams, which are available Apple, Spotify, or if you want to go get it on another platform, you can go and do that too. I'll post the Apple and Spotify ones on Twitter too.
Yeah. And hey, Nikita Kucherov, what do you think about neither of us picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go to the Super Bowl?
Number one bullshit.
Yeah, Kucherov not happy about it. The Tampa Bay not going to be thrilled with me not picking the Buccaneers to win it.
Yeah, you got to give up your fan card now.
Yeah, that is honestly a very weird thing. Is if I pick the Buccaneers to win a game, I'm a homer, and when I pick against them, it's how are you going to pick against your own team? It's like what I'm supposed to always pick for my team to win. Like I can't be objective whatsoever about it.
We're capital P professional journalism here. We're not picking either of our teams to win a championship. I could have easily picked the Patriots Buccaneers for the Super Bowl with the Patriots winning it all behind Mac Jones.
Yeah, Thomas Morgan, Stanley Cup picks. Tampa Bay Lightning again. Easy answer.
Boston Bruins. Taylor Hall's back.
That's true. No, we can't have. I feel like this is Tampa Bay could really use a championship right now. We've been through a lot. It's been weeks, Kyle.
I'm gonna hang up.
No, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, though, I do kind of feel like, give it to Cleveland.
Oh my god!
I don't want to be greedy. I'll take it.
Just imagine how lax you're going to be if like the Rays win the World Series. Will you even watch football this year then if they win the World Series?
No, I'll be the Rays. That's the only thing is that once one Rays World Series, like I can stop watching sports. We're done.
Yeah, I hate you.
Hey, you got this for a while. Don't cry that it's over. Smile that it happened. All right. Same thing about this podcast. Don't cry that it's about to end. Smile that it happened. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
Getting close to the season. I've made my college football bet, so looking forward to that season too. I'm a big college football guy, so I'm excited for that. Yeah, good stuff.
All right. So, yeah, it should be fun. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.